Good morning, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the No Zone. My name is Nikkei Roach, and I am a Gulf War era veteran. I served during the first dust off as a combat medic, and we get together to talk about topics that are relevant to veterans. My co-host, of course, is the famous, infamous in certain states, just teasing, is Gunnery Sergeant retired Jesse Almanza. Jesse,
Yeah,
that's
he's
where
not allowed to talk.
you're supposed to talk right there.
Yeah. Oh, is it my turn?
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, everyone. This is Jesse Almanza, retired gunnery sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. Coming back at you again with a podcast just to kind of give you more information about some of the things that we talk about while we do our no zone evaluations on things to know, things to hear that you may hear about later on in the future that you may want to tune into or just things to know. Welcome to the No Zone.
Welcome to the No Zone. So, before we go on, we wanted to make sure we do this disclaimer because we want to make sure that we are protecting ourselves, but we're also protecting you. And neither myself nor my co-host are authorized VA spokesperson, nor are we authorized spokesperson for any state or local government agencies. We're neither lawyers or we don't represent a PAO, a sorry, I lost my train of thought right there. Sorry, but we are here as two veterans who get together and look at best practices on the way to be able to serve veterans as well as their families. And today is no exception. Although it doesn't matter what time of year it is for you, what time it is year for us. And as a matter of fact, this is perfect because my wife was in the process recently of cleaning stuff out of our pantry. She was getting rid of some of the various things that we collected. Sometimes when you have a jar, you get something, and my wife likes to save. She'll kind of clean it up, and then before you know, we got jars and containers and cups and all that stuff. And it makes sense when you first do it, but after it starts to stack up, it starts to get out of hand. And today she went in, she just got upset and she's like, okay, I'm getting rid of all these plastic cups because we don't need them. We don't need this many and stuff like that. And it's a perfect topic today about cleaning house. And with that, I will let Jesse Almanza take over from here.
Yeah, cleaning the house. Well, it only has to do with sweeping, swabbing, and stuff that we like to do best around the house and stuff. But it also has to do a lot with what you do with your immediate environment when you're talking things like outstanding accounts that you have out there that you have kind of put off to the wayside and thinking you're going to, shut them out or terminate them, do whatever. And for some reason, you forget about them throughout the year and stuff. And here you are spending a little bit of money every month, a couple of $3 or $4 a month, Netflix or whatever the case may be, and you're not using it anymore. You've got all of these open apps and a little bit of money coming out, and you don't have any idea because it's not hurting your pocket too much. It doesn't make very much sense for you to even deal with it. So this is why we wanted to kind of bring this up because I personally started doing that in the last couple of days or so. My wife and I had been talking about terminating some of our apps that, we went through our Netflix and our Roku and all that, and we said, wow, we have the same thing over there and we have the same thing over here, and we're paying for another app to view something we already have, So it's one of these things where we're duplicating our efforts here, and in the meantime, we're spending money we shouldn't be spending. And nowadays, you shouldn't be thinking that way. Nowadays, you should be improvising and figuring out what works best. So cleaning house is supposed to clean an account and so on and so on. It's basically the same thing. If you go through and you try to identify what you have, the other funny thing is sometimes people don't know what they have. And all you know is that you've got some apps are open. And every month, they debit your account, and you take $2 or $3 out, and you look at it, and $2 or $3, not a big deal. We got 30 days. I can spend 30 cents a day for the next 30 days. Not a big deal. But when you're talking at the end of the year, you add that up, and if you have one app out there, then you have 2 or 3 or 4 of them up there, then you start adding up the money. The other thing that we try to do is I tried to ask earlier today, which kind of reminded me about why I wanted to really focus in on this type of matter here, is that I try to terminate my, I've got, well, we all have internet and then we have television, there's combined deal packages and so on and so on. So I try to call in to try to save some money and say, well, I don't want TV anymore, knowing I've got all of these apps. I don't want TV anymore, I just want internet. And what they tell me is that, sure, no problem, we can do that, but you're going to lose your bundle package deal from having both services, and now your internet is going to double in price. So I'm like, holy crap, what do you mean double in price? Oh yeah, now you're going to have to pay, the no bundle fee, which gave me a total of, we thought we were going to save like $80, but the no bundle deal means that I'm going to have to pay double for my internet and don't get rid of my TV, but that saved me a whole $20. And I'm like, wow, that makes absolutely no sense.
I think I think that's kind of, I think that's important, because it's funny that you should mention that. I was just thinking of, like, when you get a like a value meal, like we consider that, like if you go to your favorite fast food restaurant, if you buy the drink by itself and you buy the fries by themselves, then you buy whatever's the main protein. It could be a chicken or a chicken sandwich or a burger, fish, whatever it is. If you buy them separately, you pay a lot more. But if you put them all together, then you save. So I want to hear how this little deal ended. But that's what I was thinking while you were talking.
Well, the lady said, here's the deal. You can save money if you want to save money, and you can probably get a better deal. But now she wants to sell me the mobile app. Okay, I'm trying to get rid of apps here, and now she wants to give me the mobile app. Now she said, it was only $29.99 a month. Okay, that's no big deal. That would save money. However, I've got 3 lines. So is it $29.99 times 3? Or is it $29.99 for one phone? So here we go. It's one of these things where if you're not listening to what they're talking about, everybody's in the business of making money. That's what it's all about. And most recently, especially when we start off a new year, when we're at the time of the year, any time of the year when you're thinking about you want to start saving money and stuff, what's the best way to do it? And the best way to do it is try to save those nickel and dimes that you're losing and not realizing that you're losing it. But at the end of the year, when you add it up, you start thinking, wow, that was a lot of money, that turns out to be a lot of money. And especially for something that you never used, never got in this. It's not like they're going to give it back to you because, oh, never mind, we'll go ahead and give you your money back because you didn't use the service at all. When you forget and you don't turn on your TV, they're not going to reimburse you. That's all there is to it.
They are.
Go have a happy dream about it. Yeah, they're not going to bother about it.
I was gonna say, because it was interesting that you should mention that about being able to cut some ties to certain apps or certain services, which is perfect, because a number of years ago, my wife and I, invested in this particular program. Interesting enough that you should mention that, about how to be able to make more money. And a lot of times, we're looking at how can we bring more money into the family with our kids, and they're destroying everything in the house practically. They break the cabinet, they break something, whatever. Like, man, we got to make some more money. And one of the premise of of making more money wasn't necessarily how much positive capital was coming in the house, but how to reduce the amount of negative capital which is in the house. And like you said, there are certain things that you realize that, hold on, I didn't really need a phone line back then. So you might have, like you said, you may have a cable, and nowadays the cable company is also the phone company simultaneous, but that's not always the case. So you might say, well, I have a phone line, but I also have a cable line, but the cable company can provide the phone line at a less expensive fee. So we started doing, going through and just looking at an audit, like, you were alluded to, as being able to look through your own personal accounts to see what are some of the services or the apps or some of the things that I'm paying for, that I'm not actually using. And I know a lot of us hate to say this, but do you have a gym membership that you have not seen in 4 months? Okay. I can say I do. Do you have other services like guarantee stuff that are on that you never ever use, have never ever used, nor ever plan on using, and you're still paying for it? Like their subscription, especially in business, you have a lot of things that you're paying for that they come out automatically. Um, there are ways you and this one lady, she ended up going back in and realized she was spending, thousands of dollars of excess things on stuff for her and her family, for her husband, subscriptions for various cards, various magazines, various special things that he was using, kids, as well as her. And she had all these different memberships. And it was like, we don't use this, we're spending. And that may be a way to clean houses, to do an audit and to do a financial audit on yourself and your family to find out that where's that hard-earned money being leaked out to? Is it going to a service that you really need, or is it a service that maybe you need to go ahead and divorce that service?
Yeah, I definitely totally agree. When you're talking about magazine subscriptions and you don't really realize that, nowadays I've never really been a reader and read magazines at a time, let alone books and stuff. But those who have magazine subscriptions out there, the magazine flows in. I got a magazine sitting over here. It's a gun magazine. I go through those gun digests and rifle magazines and gun magazines and stuff. I'll go through them, but I won't intensively sit down here and read through them. If I want to know anything about anything, for the most part, Google, is
Oh,
it.
no. I was going a little further than that. I was going to, in this case, this individual had a subscription in stuff in the community that you don't think about. Is they had a subscription to Sam's, Costco, and BJ's. That's 3 different warehouse companies that they had to pay whatever their annual fees. But the reality is they did not go as frequent as that was required. So think about that. That could be, depending on what package you had, that could be $50 to $100 annually that you have to pay for 3 different warehouse services that come out of your account and you don't even think about it. But if you only going to BJ's or to Costco or you're going to Sam's, once every 4 months, pick one of them and throw the other ones out.
That's true. That's true. I mean, cleaning the house is not only identifying what you have and what you don't need anymore. Cleaning the house also means that, if you got some of these credit cards out there and you go out there and find yourself a bargain and it's only like a few dollars when you pay for it with your credit card. Now, it's all fine and dandy if you can afford to be able to turn right around and pay it off. But if you don't pay it off, think about the interest it's accumulating. Did you really get a bargain to begin with, Or was it something that really cost you an arm and leg? And at that specific time, it was a bargain because it was there. But some of us, have a tendency of waiting and waiting and waiting. And before we know it, that bargain's out the window. And the thing about it is these companies know these things. We're human beings. We're gonna make those things. We're gonna have those flaws. Like that lady I was talking to earlier about Time Warner Cable. I'm trying to save money. I'm really pleading with her and saying, I don't really need this service, and it's really, really expensive. Which, by the way, if anybody knows of an internet service out there that's not, the major ones, because those guys are the ones that monopolize. If all you need is internet, why do you have TV? Because with the internet, you got TV anyway. It doesn't matter. You can download all these other areas and stuff. So why spend the extra money? And I think nowadays most of us are trying to get smart with the money, because dollars make sense. And we've had that discussion before in regards to when you're getting extra money, when you have the ability to be able to get discounts, all veterans in some way, shape, or form, we're going to be able to get a discount, even if they don't ask for it. I talked about previously about wearing your colors, and all of a sudden, somebody acknowledges that and give you a discount. So those dollars do make sense when you play it the right way. And tax season comes around the corner sooner or later, whenever it comes around the corner, and you go back and you think about all the stuff that could have wrote off at the end of the year, all the things that you may have given away when you could have taken it to a donation spot. And then, you can't really write off your totals, but it decreases the amount of money that at the end of the year you make, which will put you in a little bit lower of a tax bracket, which means that you might be able to meet that threshold of being able to get some of that money back, depending on how much you donated and stuff. So there's a lot of ways of trying to figure that out. And
Well, I
and
wanted
it helps. It
to
helps when you live it.
I wanted to sort of add a little to what you just talked about as far as some of the tax benefits. Now, uh, the government, no matter what jurisdiction you live in, if you're in the UK or you're in South America or you're in North America or you're in Africa, it doesn't really matter where you are. Governments, they do one thing really, really well. They don't do a lot of other things really, really well, but they tax you really, really well. They are like the masters of taxation. There are so many different avenues and little different magic machines to find ways to tax you because governments can only operate. They don't make a product per se. I mean, they can kind of sponsor, but they don't make a product per se. So the only way they can really, really make money is by charging some kind of tax, be it a tariff tax if you're importing something into a port, or you're being taxed when you fly an aircraft. Like when you think about it, those taxes that are oftentimes added to your bill, like I'll give you a perfect example. You flying out, you find a great deal on whatever's your favorite airline. It's like, hey, I can get a great deal from North Carolina to California. It's $100. And like, great, that's wonderful. You are not considering all the different taxes that get added on to the point where the taxes actually are more than the actual flight itself. And you're like, oh my God, I'm actually paying double on a simple flight. So the point I'm going back with the tax thing is that you have to find, and I think everybody, and I'm never an advocate of finding a way to out how to not pay taxes. I believe everybody should pay taxes in some regard, but
Right.
I don't think you should pay, overly taxed overtaxed. And if you're smart about it, especially if you're from home, and like Jesse said, if you have a small business, and the business can be anything, anything. If you're a real estate agent, if you're like Jesse and you run a small arms training, company or something like that, or whatever is your passion. I know another veteran who fix, lawnmowers from his home. Other veterans are just speakers. That's what they do. They go out and they speak in public, and they are compensated for it because they're. And I know another veteran who runs a software company from home, which is ironic, but you don't really think about the tax benefits of running an enterprise from your house. So it may behoove you to really look at some of the extra tax benefits that are kind of slipping through your fingers. Like if you hire one of your children, did you know that because they're your children, you can hire them and that can be a tax write-off because you are the parent, but you're also the employer. So you're basically on two sides of the coin. And there's some dividends in hiring your own children who are minors. Again, once they get an age of 18, that's a whole different ballgame. But if they're minors, then the government gives you a lot of latitude as far as hiring your children, who live with you, and you take care of their basic needs and everything like that. And there are a number of things that can be offset by you operating your enterprise from home. So again, cleaning house is about understanding that you can clean house, but at the same time, you can make a little extra money while you're there. So,
Yeah, exactly. It's funny you talk about the airlines because not too long ago, last year, we went to Vegas and we went to Nashville and nice places to go and visit and stuff. And we got some outstanding prices on hotels and stuff. And we're like, oh my goodness, But if you really stop to think about it, you still have to pay those resort taxes when you get there.
yes.
So you may end up getting a room for $59 a night, but you end up paying $159 because those taxes that they impose
Yeah.
on you. You know,
Yeah.
case in point, Memphis, Tennessee. I'll never go back to Memphis, and if I do go back to Memphis, I'm going to stay downtown the Strip because I was at least 3 miles away when I could have been the Strip with the amount I ended up paying for the hotel. I'm like, wow. I should have. If I would have known, I would have. I didn't know it was a resort tax type town to where that's where they zap you. And
Yep.
unexpectedly, but you got to pay it. Otherwise, you have to leave a car behind or something if you happen to be driving, because
I,
that's
again,
that's the law.
it It's the law, and it is not the company which is mean or anything. They have to collect these taxes from you because the government is going to tax them. All they're doing is transferring, like you said. If you ever rent a car in a specific municipality, like I don't know if you know this, but check out how they break out the rental cars in your own town. Oftentimes, you'll see a county tax and a city tax simultaneous right there. It's like, dang, I got to pay two tax officials. Yes, you're paying the city that you live in, unless you're out in the middle of, somewhere in the middle of nowhere. But if you start breaking down some of your fees, you're like, oh my God. And then of course, if you rent a car at the airport is going to tax you for just renting it at the airport. I'm like,
Yeah,
my goodness
that's true.
gracious.
That's when they get you.
That's when they get you.
Yeah,
And again,
yeah,
it's not the companies, is that they must collect those taxes, because if they don't get it from you, the government is going to get it from them. So they're just transferring it on to you. So again, anything you can do to legally and ethically and morally reduce your tax burden, I am 100% for it. I believe every American, or if your jurisdiction is in the UK, should find ways to minimize your tax exposure legally, ethically, and morally. So ignorance is
yeah.
bliss, and our IRS, is wonderful they are not the best education source sometimes for telling you all the different tax benefits. It would behoove you to come in contact with some good tax professionals. If you want some references, I'll be happy to give you pointed to some of those tax professionals who can help you to offset some. And I suspect Jesse, coming from California, can also have some professionals on the West Coast who can assist you as far as minimizing your tax, exposure, so that you can leave a legacy and not give it off to some, your government, who unfortunately they're really good about making taxes, but they're typically not very good about their spending practices. So
Right, right. Yeah, and take it as some advice from me because I relocated from California to North Carolina. If you are one of those that are relocating from one state to the other, I can guarantee you you're not done paying them taxes yet because they're going to track you down. And it's ironic because I've never been audited on my taxes before until I left California, and ironically, all of a sudden they started looking at my stuff. And the only reason they start doing it is because now California wants to make sure that I didn't owe them anything. So they're taking care of their own selves. So if you're leaving the state, leave it free and clear. Make sure you don't owe any taxes back there because they're gonna come after you. It doesn't matter which state you end up at, they're gonna come after you anyway. Take it from me because I'm kind of dealing with that right now. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not even there anymore. Do you still want me to pay you what? But it is what it is. You just have to get that taken care of. But the other thing, the final thing was that I was looking through my wallet and through my drawers, and I came across these cards, these Starbucks cards, these Target cards, these gift cards that people have given me throughout the years, and I'm like, I never spent them. They're still there, and I'm like, why haven't I touched them? Why haven't I gone into them? Why haven't I? If I go to Starbucks, I have the card. It's not like I'm paying money out of my pocket. So I went through and I started calling the numbers and identifying how much money is left on them. And most of them are still at full value. And I've had them for a year or so in my pocket. And I'm like, wow. So now if I want a cup of coffee, I don't have to spend any money out of my pocket. I have that card that somebody gave me 2 years ago. And I go out and spend it, give me a nice cup of coffee and stuff. Same thing with Applebee's. And, I got those. I got Burger King. I got Applebee's, Subway. I got several of those. And I'm like, I'm not going to have to spend any money going out anywhere for a little while until I expose of all that.
well, if you're feeling generous and you really like, to relieve yourself of the burden of having such restaurant cards, I know a really nice bald-headed guy with 3 eating machines who would like to eat me out of house and home,
Oh, I bet.
who would really accept those cards if you feel the burden of having those food cards.
Well, it was more like I have them in my pocket. Why haven't I spent them yet? And now that I have them, I'm sorry, but I will be spending them. I will go into these places, and I'm like, and my wife tells me, she says, "You never spin your card." And she pulled out some before, and I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't realize I had that, but I do, and I think all of us have something like that in our back pockets, and we pull it out. When it comes time for you to get to say it, we have to start pinching those pennies and stuff, and all of us will go through that eventually in some shape or form and stuff. Need to start, pinching pennies and figuring out how to do that. Not that you need a lot of money, but why throw your money away? To some extent, you don't need to be throwing no money away. Like, I don't need these apps I have floating around and paying, and I look into my box, and all of a sudden, I'm like, I have that already, and that one's free, that one's already paid for. Plus, I'm paying for another. I'm like, nah, one of them is gonna go, and I don't think about it during the year when I'm moving and I'm doing things and preoccupied elsewhere and stuff. And by the time the end of the day comes around, I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow comes, and I'll do it the next day. Next day, the next day. It's just, we're human beings. We're gonna do that. So the awareness for this Nose and podcast today was cleaning house. When we get around the springtime, we normally clean house anyway. But cleaning house in more ways than just picking up your dirty laundry. Cleaning house and picking up what you need to pick up, what you need to take care of. And, you don't ever know. You may end up saving yourself a couple good bills that you don't have to pay for anymore, and it may end up being beneficial to you in the long run. So that's what we wanted to bring across today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thank you very much, Jesse, for introducing us to the topic of cleaning house. That it's more than just cleaning up your dirt. It's also cleaning up your finances. So if you have ideas or interests or other subject matters that really are relevant and you like us to really take apart and get into the granular level, by all means, submit those over to our Gulf War era veterans group, which is on Facebook. You can also, make comments on our different podcast platform, which includes Spotify as well as Apple. And if you just need to ask a question and you just want to send a note, by all means, go on over to the Gulf War Veterans Coffee.com and send us a note. And also, that's also for now how you get your coin. So if you've not gotten your Gulf War era coin and you're still like, oh my God, I never got it, or for some reason we dropped the ball. It happens. Don't have a cow. It happens. If you need one and you didn't get one, or you discovered another veteran in your neighborhood who is a Gulf War era veteran, and just point them over to Gulf War Veterans Coffee. I'll let Jesse show you a picture of it so you can put them on the spot so that you can see it. If you were live on on our podcast, then you can actually see it. But of course, sometimes when you're in the recording, you can't see it. But that's how you get it. And all you have to do is just request. We're not going to ask you for your DD-214. We're not going to ask you for. All you have to do is say, hey, I'd like one, and we'll send them in. And this is, of course, to a limited time. After a while, we're going to start charging for shipping. But for now, we're going to leave it as a way for you to be able to get this, because you earned it by putting on that uniform. And if you went to basic training for a day, or you did the full 8 weeks in some cases, or if you're like the Army or the infantry, basic training was extended because you went from basic straight into your school. So you went back to basic all over again. That's why I never understand in infantry school. Because I was like, I drove past the infantry school one day in near Camp Lejeune. And I was like, hold on. Are you telling me they go to 8 weeks of boot camp and then they turn around and do more freaking boot camp as infantry school? Because it's basically
it's called specializing in boot camp.
I know. I'm like, I will never understand the reason why you go to infantry school, because you go twice. You basically go to boot camp twice.
Right. Yeah, well, definitely, of course.
Well, a shout out to all the veterans out there in your family. Thank you for making it to another day. Thank you for being an integral part of our community. I want to thank you as well as your family members for supporting you and encouraging you. And if you're a business owner and you happen to be a veteran, we really would like to highlight you. Myself, as well as Jesse Almanza, are both small business owners ourselves and are independent. And because we also collaborate as well in this organization as far as Gulf War Era Veteran Inc., which is a nonprofit that we formed to be able to actually put on programs in our community as well as across the country in the future. So if you have ideas and you're a business owner, we really would like to talk to you. We would like to bring you on our podcast so we can showcase your business, your talents, your struggles, as well as your successes. We really want to make sure that our business owners who are veterans or family owners who are or family members who are business owners are showcased, because we're finding that if we can help another veteran thrive, then that veteran is going to help another veteran thrive. So I want to thank you, Jesse, for your insights. And I want to thank Rita for not throwing something at you while you were on the podcast making jokes.
Still didn't get my coffee, though.
I know.
Okay. That's all right. I can go up and get it.
We will see you on another episode of the No Zone. Bye for now.
You got it. Semper Fi. Semper Fi. Hoorah.